Jam on toast!
Hey there everybody, welcome to the Jam. I'm Cameron. Today the toast is to The Nightmare Before Christmas. This is week 19 of hashtag We Are Movie Club. I picked this one mainly because it's the only one of my top 6 picks that's available on Netflix, so I know everybody should be able to get at it. When I saw it was on Netflix, I was like, I've got to pick this because it's even more important to me that it's good away from Christmas or Halloween, because I could just have this on repeat all year round, let alone in between Halloween and Christmas. Oh yes. Alright, so the short sell on this one is that the king of Halloween discovers Christmas Town and decides he wants his hand at taking over Christmas. My love it for this one is the part where the Easter Bunny jumps out, and for whatever reason it bounces over to the guy with the axe in his head, and he's just like, Bunny! And then the Easter Bunny goes diving back in. I don't know why, but that whole scene always makes me laugh or smile, and I no idea why. It's just like the most bizarre thing in a universe of the bizarre. My hate it in this is Boogie. While he's such a fearsome and cruel villain, he wasn't much of a challenge. I was really disappointed by that. I expected like some kind of epic battle, and it was really his super villain trap device thing, and then he tries to run away and fails his role. The MVP of this movie was definitely Sally, voiced by Catherine O'Hara. If you don't know her, I will be amazed. Nothing else, she was the mom from Home Alone, and she's shown up usually as the crazy mom in a bunch of stuff all over the place. So I wanted to make sure I put her picture here so you could see her and know that you know her, instead of going, well, who's that? Because I didn't know her name either until I looked her up, and I saw her, I'm like, yes, of course I know you. But let's get on to the categories. Aesthetics. I don't know if it is because of Tim Burton or in spite of him, but when this was made, it was top of the line production quality, and they were doing new goopy things with the clay and the sticky action when he sticks his hand to the same guy's head. They just did some wonderful things with it that you may or may not have expected, and it comes out looking beautiful. The stylization is lovable, and it makes it timeless in the same, because with claymation you have that extra time and effort that's put into it that just makes it magical and timeless, because it's its own thing. It's not really part of reality usually. You might have seen a little bit of that in Mary and Max, but in here you see things where it's like, it's kind of generic looking houses. It almost looks kind of British, the neighborhoods are in, because the houses are so close together. But most of the stuff's so bizarre and out of this world that you can't relate it to reality. So you get this thing that is completely isolated, and you can pop this in 20 years from now, and it probably wouldn't feel any older than it did in 1993. The movie was made in 1993. So even 20 years later, it still looks good, it's still lovable, it's just full of wonderment. The music in this is wonderful. The fact that you can play the soundtrack and essentially get the movie in a much shorter time is amazing, and that's the stuff that's going to catch in your head and that's going to be really memorable, is the music, the soundtrack, the songs. Because every song on the soundtrack you can sing, there's lyrics for it, and they're catchy stuff like Kidnap Mr. Santa Claus. This is Halloween. If you didn't just start humming it to yourself right then, go listen to some of this stuff, and it'll get stuck in your head for a while, but it'll be a good time, I promise. Aesthetics gets 98. Character development. The character development in this is so good it almost hurts itself. It's really subtle, which is the best and worst part of it. You're presented with things like vampires. You're like, okay, you project a little bit vampires and it's like blood, and they get that scene where they're handed the baby and they're, well, what kind of noise is that for a baby to make? So you kind of build their characters for yourself. Like, oh, of course vampires would think that like a baby would make a horrified sound or whatnot, because when you're first introduced into this and you have this whole song of This is Halloween Town, they're introducing all the things that they're all about, which is mostly scaring children, and you see that they're all made up of monsters, mummies and werewolves and vampires and skeleton people, witches, and all sorts of horrors. So you kind of start building this image of what it is to be part of Halloween Town and the mentality that these people have. It's all real subtle. There's no direct exposition. It's not quite by being presented a situation and then reacting to it either. It's really their actions creating the scenario, which is beautiful because it's very hard to pull off a lot of the times. And normally it's a lot easier to throw them into a scenario and show the audience how they react to the situation. Whereas in this case, they're kind of going about doing very normal, mundane things that are a little bit different than what we would normally expect in real life. And that creates a scenario of being in Halloween Town, and as Jack goes through it, starts interacting with Christmas Town, introducing pieces of Christmas Town and letting them react to that, which is really just them going about their things. It just happens to be what Jack's going about is introducing Christmas Town, and it's really woven really well. The only thing I think that is the problem with doing it so subtly is it hurts itself because it doesn't give us quite as much. Like the guy with the axe in his head, what's his story? Like, how do you become that? Like, how do we have vampires? There's no rules or exposition, so there's no real development of Halloween Town as it came to be. It's more of like just how it's happening right now, which is fine, which is enjoyable and lovable, entertaining, and all that. But it's just done so well. I want that a little bit more I didn't get. Character development gets a 92. Storyline. The storyline for this is amazing. Just on the premise of what if Halloween and Christmas became the same holiday? And reverse engineering it from there, you gotta sell it. It's a wonderful idea. It's two of the holidays where kids get rewards for doing stuff. So of course it's going to be relatable to them. It's going to be relatable to people who once were kids. It's going to be relatable to people who have kids. It's just a good idea. Now, if you look at the basis for both holidays, granted some of the definitions vary, it makes more sense for Halloween to try to take over Christmas and put Halloween into Christmas, per se, especially since one comes before the other. With the Jack Skellington character and the way they built him and his personal inner turmoil throughout the movie, I think they did lovely. And then they also had the multi-threading with Sally's storyline and Santa Claus's, and I wish more had come to it. I think they got through a lot of the production, and it was really like, okay, we're meeting our budget, we're meeting our time frame, we've got to wrap this up. So we ended up with this very condensed third act, essentially, where Jack realizes that he's made a mistake and he goes to save Santa Claus and he has to confront Oogie Boogie and save Sally and Santa Claus. I think there should have been more story there than what we were shown, and there's definitely more story afterwards. I would love for like a sequel to show up if it was anywhere close, where Sally's asking Jack about the other doors or whatnot, and like what could possibly be behind them. And you've got to think too, Oogie's kids know where the doors are. They could be going in there and causing all sorts of havoc. Who knows what actually happened to the Easter Bunny? There are unsolved questions there, and it makes me want more. It makes me want all of those, and that's the sign that they executed the story well enough. Storyline gets a 96. Compulsion. I don't know if it's just because I'm a weird guy or what, but I never get tired of this movie. I literally can listen to this soundtrack on repeat. I can have the movie running in the background any time of the year, any day, a couple different times. In fact, it used to be when I was feeling down, this is what I would put on to kind of get a smile on my face because it was just such a lovable movie. I don't know, maybe it made me nostalgic of being a kid when you were a little bit more carefree and stupid crap didn't matter anymore. I like this movie. It keeps me engaged. It keeps me wonderful. I now know it so well that I don't have to pay attention to it. I can watch it in my head as the soundtrack's playing or the characters are talking. Every time I watch it, whether or not it's true, I feel like I see something new because there's so many details in everything that I can't believe that somebody put so much effort into this movie, and it's just such a wonderful thing that they did. Compulsion gets a 99. Now if you throw all that up together, you get an average of 96.25. To me, that makes this a guarantee. If you bought this movie and didn't like it, I would probably pay you the money for it so that I had another copy. Worst case, I'm going to give it off to somebody else and they're going to enjoy it. But for my wrap-up review, I've got to say, this is a movie that I would recommend to anyone and everyone, especially if you have kids or they're for kids. It's such a good movie. It's so accessible for everyone. It's just a fun time. You're going to have kids run around singing silly songs about kidnapping Santa Claus or This is Halloween Town or whatever. they're into for the soundtrack. Once again, this was a review for hashtag We Are a Movie Club. This week's pick was mine. I really hope you enjoyed it. Next week's pick is going to be Sid Cam. She's going to pick for us Amélie. It's a French subtitled film, but after The Untouchables, there should be no complaints because that was a damn good movie. And I've had my eye on this for probably much longer than I should have before watching it. So I'm glad somebody finally gave me a kick in the ass to watch it. Be sure to go check it out next week. Search the hashtag We Are Movie Club for everybody doing reviews and anyone else doing a review for Nightmare Before Christmas or Amélie. I think that's it for me. I'm Cameron. If you don't like me, bite me. If you want to see anything else we're up to, go ahead and click the annotations and they'll take you to our other channels.